What is going on there, citizens of the Reject Nation? Greg and John here. Today, we got to talk about some stuff right now. It's very important that we do. I know we're late to it. I was in the middle of working on a couple of things when the Marvel animation panel was going on, so I missed a lot of this information. I was a few hours late to finding out. Specifically Spider-Man freshman year, because there's a lot of qualities about Spider-Man freshman year that I am so jazzed about.
Totally.
Very excited. I love a good Spider-Man animated series. Grew up on the 90s one. Love Spectacular Spider-Man. So seeing this and seeing some of the first images, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Then there's this other part of me that's just so equally puzzled by what they're doing that I found myself going down a wormhole of like, wait, I'm lost. Let me make sure that I remembered my information correctly. And then I looked at the Disney Plus press release and it said Spider-Man freshman year. It's basically confirming that it's the prequel to Captain America Civil War. Well, at least not prequel, but take place before, then showing his journey into becoming Spider-Man, Tom Holland's version, right? And that's when this raised a lot of questions. In Spider-Man freshman year, when looking at these images, there was a couple of things that I was excited to see explored because, you know, by the time you meet him in Civil War, he'd only been Spider-Man. I don't remember how long it had been. My memory is saying it was only like 6 months, but it might have been longer than that. I could be way wrong. You feel free to correct me. But he hadn't been Spider-Man for that long. And so seeing like the early prototype images again and watching the journey, I'm like, oh, it's nice to actually fill in this gap and really get the origin of it all. And maybe there'll be an Uncle Ben. Maybe.
We'll see.
With the way they're writing this show, I'm like, it seems like you could throw an Uncle Ben in there, even though Spider-Man No Way Home kind of made it feel like there was never an Uncle Ben to begin with.
There will be a really emotional scene where Uncle Ben tells Aunt May that with great power comes great responsibility, that she can pass it on.
And then they revealed that Daredevil's going to be in the show. And I love the look of Daredevil's new outfit. It is super, super sick. And knowing Charlie Cox is returning to voice Daredevil, that was great. It did raise an eyebrow for a second, but I went, wait, never mind. This works. Because, you know, when you see Matt Murdock representing Peter Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home, Daredevil could have met Spider-Man, but that doesn't mean Daredevil learned who Spider-Man actually is. So it doesn't mess with the MCU canon. But then some other shit starts to really mess with MCU canon, if not executed properly. Like already that's why I had to relook at, wait, what was the press release on this? Because this is so confusing. And then I was going online. I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. Other people are confused about this too, because this is really weird to me. They revealed a look at the villains that are going to be featured in this show, which of course is exciting. And I didn't even question it at first because I saw Doc Ock, and looking at Doc Ock, you know, it's the classic animated suit, you know, it looks so classic. Then I saw Scorpion, and I'm like, oh, cool, Scorpion's going to be in the show too. And then I went, hold the phone. Something's really off about this situation to me here.
So, did we just forget all these people had met Peter Parker before? Or was there Doctor Strange is supposed to be in this too? Did he like erase Peter's memory of all these people? Because yeah, it just seems like there's such blatant lack of continuity with the thing they directly said they wanted to show the backstory of here.
Yeah, because as you recall in Spider-Man No Way Home, you know, they laugh at the thought or sight of Otto Octavius. Scorpion doesn't, at least the way it registers in the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, it doesn't really become Scorpion until the end of that film, where it seemed like they were setting us up to get a Scorpion, but we ultimately didn't, right? But especially with Otto Octavius, you would think that Peter Parker in No Way Home would have some kind of reaction to, I know an Otto Octavius here, and now I'm meeting a different version.
Yeah, you're not the real one.
Maybe there's a way to write it off, like, okay, maybe that just wasn't said or some shit. But then they revealed this. I don't know the order in which they revealed stuff. I'm telling you the order and how I found stuff out. That Norman Osborn is going to be in the series along with Harry Osborne. They look cool. I don't care that they're black. Some people probably are going to throw a hissy fit.
You're not mad. You're not paying attention.
If you're not mad, you don't love Marvel the way you're supposed to love Marvel or something.
These characters have to be white.
Or you're supposed to love Marvel because you love diversity. Like, I don't care. Like, who cares? That's great. Good. Awesome. You know, it's sometimes I just don't question things at first because I'm like, Norman Osborn is a part of the Peter Parker journey. Yeah. But then again, going back to No Way Home, Norman Osborn says when he lands here on Earth 616, there's no Oscorp here. He also freaking, according to these photos and images that we have here, Peter Parker looks like he's best friends with Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is more canon to the actual story of Peter Parker. But does that line up with the Tom Holland MCU version that we've gotten? Peter has no reaction at all to seeing an alternate universe Norman Osborn. I could even give the show some type of leeway if there's not an Oscorp established, like if it's called something else, that way they don't have to worry about that continuity error. I still feel like there's a gap here that's kind of missing for me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it from the outside and it begs you to do like a lot of contortions to imagine how this could make sense and not disrupt everything, because you're like, okay, so did Doc Ock get sent back and go, no, I gotta go get Peter Parker again, but I'm gonna go to the past at a different point. There's just so much convolution for something they promised it at first sounding very simple.
And then they threw this in here, which made me start questioning a little bit more. Again, I don't know the order and how they unveiled things. I'm saying, and then they threw this in here, but I don't know the order. They have this look of Spider-Man suits. First thought, oh, sweet, we're going to get alternate Spider-Man suits. And then you go back to the question of canon. Like, wait a minute, hold on a second.
When did you run through all these?
When did you have, like, the classic-looking Spider-Man suit in freshman year? Like, when did you have the classic-looking suit? So is it going to be something that crosses over from, like, some of it's going to take place before Civil War, and then some of it's going to take place after Civil War? That would make sense to me. But what about all these other suits? Like, where the hell did these come from? This looks like a person who would have encounters with, like, the multiverse and other versions of Spider-Man. That's the only way I could see it. When did all of these get built? Or when did he try all these out? Because when you watch those MCU movies, it seemed like it was whatever Tony gave me, you know?
Yeah. This is the mandated upgrade to your janky homemade suit, and it came from a very specific place. So yeah, it's like, how would you run through all this? Like, this must be the longest freshman year, like, possible. The more you hear about it, the more it feels like it ought to be a standalone thing. Because then it would make sense, and then it would be like, okay, maybe it'll touch the MCU, but it's not setting out to originate something that is so heavily kind of tied to the MCU specifically.
You know, they are bringing back Charlie Cox, but Tom Holland is not voicing Peter Parker in this show. Was that a very intentional choice? Because they're going to have to explain some of this shit.
Maybe.
You know?
I don't know. Like, at this point, because of the multiverse, my mind, again, goes, they could explain this any number of ways. And the main concern that I have hearing all these things, and there's like going to be Doctor Strange, and there's going to be characters from Runaways, and there's going to be all these things, and it just feels so kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Again, and it's all coming back to that sticking point of this is going to be the origin story of Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And the more I hear about this, just the more it doesn't feel like it's got anything to do with that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm just totally puzzled by a lot of the choices when I think about canon. If this was just some standalone thing, not a single question.
No, it's just that one aspect.
Yeah, but that one aspect is making me question everything about what they're doing when MCU is so much about timeline and continuity. What does MCU mean now? You know, what are they saying that? Yeah, no, it's still MCU, but it's a different Peter. Or are you talking? But I thought this was the Tom Holland Peter. I'm like, yeah.
It's all the. Well, they're gonna have to call it the MCM now. They're gonna have to call it the cinematic multiverse. The one continuity, the sacred timeline, is breaking up, and I feel like once you get past Phase 4 and beyond, it's gonna be harder and harder to explain that once upon a timeline that was unified.
I don't know. Leave your thoughts down below, guys. Subscribe. Click that bell. See you for more Comic-Con goodies.